Hello and welcome to Friday feature number 100. Who'd have thought back in April 2014 when I made 10 open worlds you must visit that I'd be sitting here on the exact same spot, on the exact same sofa, having mentioned the exact same stealth series 61 times. 62 times. To celebrate, we've got the exact same in-jokes, Brian Cox, The Badger, my mum, plus a list of games that over the last 2.5 years have helped fuel these lists with their variety, longevity, and overall brilliance. Here are 7 long-running video game series that, if we had our way, would just keep on going forever. First up, we've got the genre-defining Resident Evil, survival horror royalty, and a series that is responsible for the first time I ever screamed at a video game. And we're talking full-on involuntary vocal cord spasm here.
Robert, what's wrong? Are you okay? Do you need an ambulance? Answer me, boy!
It was the hands, they came through the window in Resident Evil 2.
Are you serious?
Totally serious, Mum. The hands coming through the boarded up windows bit in Resident Evil 2, the first game I played in the series, is, as far as I'm concerned, the most masterfully designed jump scare in video game history. Whereas most games get you by shoving screeching faces at the camera while you're walking down a corridor. Yeah, thanks Until Dawn, still not forgiving you. Resi 2 plays with your expectations like a schoolyard bully picking the legs off a spider. You can see the boarded up windows, you're expecting something to jump out, you tense up, edge past, and nothing. You do it again, still nothing. You get to the point where your guard is down to such an extent that when the hands inevitably do burst through, it's the most terrifying thing ever. I remember my brain going into slow motion. Something's come through.
They look like hands. They are hands.
Anyway, Resident Evil, a series that's reached its 7th numbered entry, and let's not forget the likes of Code Veronica, and still shows no sign of letting up. It's reinvented itself, moved with the times, scared us witless, and let us fire a torpedo at a mutated man swimming in lava. Resi, we salute you. Next up is a series that's been ruining thumbs and friendships for nearly 30 years. Take a wild guess at what it is.
Tekken?
Correct, it's Street Fighter, a game you probably had some experience with as a too young child, sneaking a quick go on the arcades at Hollywood Bowl while your mum thought you were going to the toilet. Street Fighter 2 was the game when I used to hang in the arcades. Hang, in this context, is basically 90s lingo for loiter anxiously. I'd take a bunch of pocket money and mash buttons with my mate for an hour, getting as many games in as we could before that kid came over and ruined all the fun. You know, that kid. Every arcade had one. Ours was about 13 and massive, with a backwards baseball cap and a zip jacket he left undone like a dude. He knew all the buttons and would come over and smirk and be all like,
I'll play the winner, yeah?
yeah, cool, yeah. I'll pay as well, don't worry. You could substitute Street Fighter for whichever fighting series was yours. Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur. But the bottom line is, I bet you have one. And I bet you have a main. And I bet you don't know the buttons for all their combos in your head, but you do know them in your skin. Like your thumbs will just remember what to do whenever you grab that stick or pick up that pad. Oh, fighting games. Never stop existing, please. Entry number 3 is Metal Gear. Go on then, moan about how I always talk about it, but how can I not? It's such a massive series with the main story arc spanning 28 years, from 1987's Metal Gear, which you can now play on PS3 in the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, all the way up until 2015's The Phantom Pain, a fitting send-off for creator Hideo Kojima as he embarks on another mad game featuring nakedness and a melancholy mulleted stubbly man. The most impressive thing about Metal Gear, however, was that it was always innovating. Every release was cutting edge, wowed us with visuals and gameplay that before we hadn't thought possible, and occasionally had a man with irritable bowel syndrome making hilarious noises under a barrel. That's the great thing about Metal Gear, it's dark and light-hearted, deadly serious and absurd, about nuclear disarmament and skidding down sand dunes in a cardboard box. It's made me laugh, it's made me cry, and in over 2 decades it's given me enough material for another 100 Friday features at least. Don't you feel lucky, Dave, and everyone watching? Our next entry is Dragon Quest, a series that's been going strong for a staggering 30 years now. While we've seen relatively little of Dragon Quest on PlayStation, what we have seen has been nothing short of amazing. PS2's Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King was Ni no Kuni developers level 5 at their imperious best, and is a game that nestles comfortably in my list of all-time favourite RPGs. It was everything you could want from a JRPG, a massive world, a mad villain hell-bent on destroying said world, a varied band of adventurers out to stop said villain, a beautiful soundtrack to accompany said adventurers, and a Moorish turn-based battle system to master while listening to said music. But if you want a concrete idea of just how massive Dragon Quest is, then listen to this. In Japan, it's the actual law that Dragon Quest games can only be released at weekends or on public holidays, as the last time one was released on a work day, 2 million people across the country called in sick. You're ill, are you? Yeah, you look it. I don't suppose you've seen my copy of Dragon Quest Builders anywhere, by any chance? No? Alright then. Get well soon. The series is seeing a resurgence on PS4 recently, however, with the aforementioned Dragon Quest Builders arriving out of nowhere and combining the look, feel and battle system of Dragon Quest with the addictive block building of Minecraft, and somehow managing to be 10 times better than that sounds. Go on, actually play it. Then there's the exciting fact I keep on forgetting, that Dragon Quest XI, a full numbered main entry instalment, is currently in development for PS4. I can make you ill when that one comes out if you like. Tomb Raider is up next, a series that's recently celebrated its 20th anniversary with Rise of the Tomb Raider 20th Anniversary Edition on PS4, a game that really is testament to how long Lara has been at the apex of virtual adventuring. Just look at the transformation. Here she is back in 1996, a D-pad controlled angular approximation of a human being. And here she is in 2016, and my god, squint and she could be real set-piece surfing superstar. It's fascinating to see how Tomb Raider has shifted with the times, beginning life as a 3D puzzle platformer essentially, with combat elements thrown in, before morphing into the dazzling cinematic spectacle of today. The one constant, Lara Croft. A true PlayStation legend and worldwide icon. Everyone has stepped into Lara's shoes at some point. When my idiot child feet filled them back in Tomb Raider 3 on PS1, they'd fall into spike pits all the time because, as I said, idiot, and the puzzles were well hard. Tomb Raider in the 90s sort of epitomised the gaming experience of that time. You'd get stuck, you'd phone helplines or talk to mates about how to get past certain areas. You'd turn up at school on a Monday and boast that you were now on level 7. The gameplay has changed over the decades. It's slicker and open and full of action spikes as opposed to spikes. Although I still managed to find some spikes. But crucially, Lara is still that same relatable kick-ass heroine we all know and love from 20 years ago. Here's to another 20 years. Our penultimate entry is a bit of a sleeping giant. If only there was some device I could use to turn back time. and also make a clever introduction to this entry, which is Prince of Persia.
He's been around since 1989, but you probably remember him best from 2003's The Sands of Time.
What a game this was, with its incredible titular device allowing the prince to solve puzzles and prance about like an Olympic gymnast by manipulating time itself. You had to fill up the Sands of Time by defeating enemies too, and it was a wonderfully elegant combat system that made you look choreographed by Yuan Wu Ping when you got it right. Sands of Time spawned 2 sequels, Warrior Within and The Two Thrones, each getting progressively stabby, while at the same time veering away slightly from the puzzles and platforming. It was a brilliant trilogy and paved the way for a certain God of War to dominate the mythological action-adventure genre for years to come.
The Prince then returned in 2008 on PS3, ditching the Evanescence look in favour of, well, luminescence.
2008 Prince of Persia was very colourful and also voiced by Nolan North, fresh from his first outing as Nathan Drake. It was another quality adventure filled with awesome combat and likeable characters. However, this iteration of the Prince wasn't to last. In 2010, the Forgotten Sands picked up where Sands of Time had left off, with a slightly moodier protagonist and lots of brown bits.
Since then, however, nothing. Come on, sweet Prince, use your magic sandy doodah and reboot yourself or something.
In the beginning, the universe was a dense, rapidly expanding soup of particles. This highly energized matter eventually cooled, the expansion slowed, and gravity caused certain areas of matter to collapse and clump together. These clumps of matter went on to form the massive celestial bodies that you and I know today. Stars, planets, galaxies. The Final Fantasy franchise, which has so far sold a cumulative 118.6 million units as of June 2016.
You didn't think I wasn't going to include Final Fantasy, did you? It's a series so big that by now it probably has its own gravitational pull. It certainly sucked me in anyway. Back in 1997 I first got my hands on Final Fantasy VII and had my tiny little only played platformers until now mind blown wide open. What other series can boast a 14th main entry sequel? I mean, most other games are well onto subtitles by this stage, but there's no colon reloaded here. No, Final Fantasy sticks to good old-fashioned Roman numerals, 13, 14, 15, thank you very much.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got your Type 0 HDs and your Final Fantasy 13 2s as well.
13-2? Why don't they just call it 14?
Final Fantasy will never end. Even when the universe falls back in on itself and all life as we know it is crushed to near infinite density, you just won't stop the release of Final Fantasy MMMDCCC LXXVIII. But let's be serious, Final Fantasy has endured because it's been consistently phenomenal for nearly 30 years. The stories, the characters, they stay with you like nothing else. The music is some of the most iconic in video game history, and I really love how annoyed and confused Nathan Dave get when I gush on about it every single week. No, I won't stop. Not unless Final Fantasy itself stops, which it won't, ever.
And neither will I. 100 Friday features down. You cannot stop this train. I'm literally writing the next one now. It's all I do. Don't send help, I don't need it. Or food, I don't need that either.
I do need likes though, that's how I'm powered, a little slot under my armpit that runs on YouTube likes, so please, get clicking. Also subscribe, or don't, I'm still going to make these anyway, but seriously, thank you very much for watching. I never thought I'd make it to 100. See you next time for another list of 7 things.